Welcome to Season 4 of My Wife the Dietitian, a fun, evidence-based weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy living. On today's show, we'll be answering a question from a listener who wants to know the difference between farmed fish, fresh fish, and lake fish. Listen in to hear all the details. Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Rob.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. We got this question a while ago, and Lisa, thanks for being patient with us. It was a very complex question. You had quite a few questions within the question. So
it's like one of my questions.
Yeah, it totally is.
It's a Rob question. You should be used to those.
Yeah. No, it's good though. Let's just do it though. It's there's a lot to this. So Lisa's question is farmed fish safe to eat? Is Atlantic salmon as high in omega-3 as Pacific? How can you tell at the grocery store if your fish is wild or farmed? How to get healthy fish in Ontario with no sources of deep water? And are walleye, lake trout, bass, pike, perch good for you? Do they have omega-3s? Great questions.
Yes.
So good.
No. It's like a multiple choice question.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That would be easy. I can see what you mean. Great questions though. And I've had some of those questions. We live on the coast, so we don't have quite the same, I don't want to say issues. Well, I guess they're issues, but fish is a bit more available for us. And I understand we did grow up in Ontario where a lot of those fish were the mainstream kind of available fish. So
my first fish I ever caught was a perch.
Yeah, I ate perch.
Yeah.
It's tasty.
I know. Perch, St. Lawrence River, like near Kingston. So that's off of Lake Ontario. But there's also bass. So smallmouth.
Bass, trout.
Smallmouth bass is what I've caught before. And I never caught a muskie. That was like, those are big
I think
fish.
the muskie catches you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're big.
They're massive.
Yeah.
Muskie Jake.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, that was a fishing charter.
Oh, is that what it is?
Muskie Jake.
Muskie Jake, yeah. It's funny.
I think pike. I've
they're big
caught
too.
a pike, and they're like kind of long and skinny.
Long and skinny, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a spike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but good questions because, are they healthy? Do they have omega-3s? You know, do you have to eat wild Pacific salmon to get the omega-3s and the health benefits? Because I think you hear that a lot is salmon.
Yeah, exactly.
And salmon's awesome.
And the whole farmed thing too. I've always wondered about that because it's sort of a new thing, I think, and I'm sure it's more affordable. But people are wondering about the health. I don't know, like how does it rate compared to wild salmon?
Yeah, and the availability. There's a bit more availability for the farmed raised.
East Coast versus West Coast, that whole thing.
Yeah, so let's dive into this.
Let's do it.
Let's jump in the ocean, the water, the lake, and talk about farmed versus wild. There's a good quote, fish that don't hunt for their food get fat.
So Sandra had to explain that to me because I didn't quite understand. I thought all fish hunted for their food, but she said that farmed fish don't have to hunt for their food because they're just fed.
Exactly.
They just have their food thrown in. It's like having a goldfish on a really big scale.
Right. You're funny.
So they're fed. I guess the whole concept with that is they're fed like an appropriate diet. So the diet is controlled. They're given exactly what they need to grow. And
what does your food eat?
Yeah.
So it's just like if you're thinking of beef or chicken or eggs, like what is making that food? Like, what is that food eating? Because that's where you go back, you think back the food chain.
Exactly.
A lot of times it's soy and corn and dried pellets, kind of like dog food, like fish meal. Some fish are carnivore. So like salmon and trout and halibut.
And piranha.
They need a higher protein and fat diet. Whereas catfish and tilapia are omnivore. So they have plants and animals in their diet.
Okay.
And carp are herbivores. Isn't that interesting?
Herbivore.
Yeah.
I thought carp were like the dirty garbage fish or something. I always had heard that. Yeah, you don't want to eat that. It's garbage fish. Not that they eat garbage, but maybe they just don't taste very good.
Well, and polluted water can equal polluted fish.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right?
Makes sense.
So it is a concern. I mean, if you're eating a lot of your fish that are lake fish most of the time, like if that's your source of fish, then it might be not great. Like you might be getting more contaminants in it, right? Chemical residues and accumulated mercury and lead.
Because it's a lake, you mean? And it doesn't like the water doesn't change out the way it would in like a river or the ocean? Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah.
You've probably heard of like different areas that get contaminated, like shores, and definitely it affects the quality of the fish.
Oh, absolutely.
So variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, once again.
Right?
There's that answer.
So again, it's good to have different types of fish in your diet and seafood, right? So shrimp and prawns and clams, mussels, scallops, and a whole lot of different whitefish or salmon. So farmed, there's lots of different ways. I mean, there's like the closed
pen kind of farm.
Yeah. So there's some that are on land. There's some that are in the ocean. It's a whole, there's so much to it, but let's just stick with the question here. So is farmed fish safe to eat? Yes, absolutely. I mean, they're more available, right? And they are a lot of times cheaper. So in restaurants, when you're ordering salmon or other fish, a lot of times it's going to be farmed, probably.
Okay.
There might be words on the label, sustainably farmed. Like that might be how it's labeled, sustainably farmed. Or it might say wild caught. So then that's wild fish.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's farmed. Wild caught wouldn't be farmed. No. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a MSC, Marine Steward Council label for wild caught. There's Aquaculture Stewardship Council. So that's ASC, and that's the farmed fish kind of stamp.
And what's it stamping? That it's farmed, or
yes.
that's
sustainably farmed.
And what does that mean? Sustainably farmed? Because sustainable for us mean like it's like
regenerates.
Yeah. So I wonder how that relates to the sort of safety or the health of the fish. I guess it's done in a safe way or a healthy way.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a council, I'm sure it's overseen, right?
Yeah.
So, and the issue is the pollution. As the pollution of the oceans and streams and shores is rising, so is the skepticism regarding the safety of fish. So fish captured in the wild, if it's caught in a polluted area, it's not necessarily
any better. Yeah.
Right. And so farmed fish or cultivated fish is gaining popularity and more accessibility, like for people to get it. Like it's more available.
I wonder how much information there is on, like, you'd almost be better to look up where it was farmed. I don't know if they provide that information, but to look up the different farms to see what the deal is with that specific farm and what their kind of deal is. That would give you more information. Because like you said, I mean, someone catching a fish wild, it isn't necessarily any better than a farmed fish, but it depends on the information on both, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So at least with the farmed stuff, you can probably dig a little and find out information about their practices. And
yeah, exactly. And, you know, as I mentioned, fish that don't hunt for food get fat. So like sedentary adults, farmed fish wallow in the tanks with little or no exercise.
Yeah.
And they're fatter than wild fish. So the content of the omega-3s in farm-fed fish does not always rise in the increase in body fat. So, like, for instance, coho salmon that's wild has, like, overall has 4 grams of fat in 3.5 ounces of cooked. Like, that's basically the size of the palm of your hand. Mm-hmm. So coho salmon wild is about 4 grams of fat,
right,
whereas the farmed has about 9 grams of fat.
Oh, okay.
So you're getting a lot more fat.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that there's more omega-3 fats.
Right, I see.
With catfish, so wild, you get 3 grams of fat, and the farmed catfish has 10 grams.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so they do, basically that's why the quote is, fish that don't hunt for food get fat.
Yeah.
So salmon that's grown in captivity or farmed, it's a fattier fish, but there's not as many omega-3s in that as when they're eating the sea algae. Because you think of what they're eating.
Yeah, for sure.
And, there has been, if the tanks are polluted, like it depends on, like you said, the state of the condition of the water, the condition of the farm where the fishes are raised. Mm-hmm. So it could have the excrement of the fish poo that could have like hormones and antibiotics and pesticides, all those things in the farmed raised fish.
It sounds a bit like chickens and eggs and like farm raised, or like the eggs we get from our backyard chickens are way different than what you'd get from, I don't know what you call them, like factory raised chickens, where they come in a little, where they're just churning out chicken eggs. Mm-hmm. It's so different. So I'm sure fish is like that too. But the eggs either way are both still going to be good for you. They're just one is better than the other one.
Yeah, and exactly.
Like it's better than not eating eggs at all.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So when you're looking at the store, like in the grocery store, the appearance for the farm raised, they're usually like more uniform appearance and color, but they probably have white veins of marbling of fat.
Okay.
And sometimes they add carotenoids to the feed to make the farmed salmon look more orange or pink, like look more like wild.
Oh, interesting.
And because, how, beta carotene and carotenoids offer that orangey hue.
Huh. Makes sense.
And the wild fish tend to be leaner, as I mentioned, and they have the richer color. They have the natural diet with the algae, so they have the astaxanthin, which is similar to, we've talked about lutein and zeaxanthin. It's a similar element.
Okay.
So phytochemical, antioxidant. Mm-hmm. It's beneficial when we eat that.
Right.
And the wild has that from eating the sea, all the different things in the ocean.
Interesting. Yeah.
So they could be overfished. That's a big emerging problem in the environment.
Mm-hmm. With the wild, you mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few other resources to look into that we'll put in the show notes, like Oceanwise and Friends of the Sea, Seafood Watch, Local Catch Network, NOAA.
Isn't that the Weather Channel?
Yeah, but there's a fisheries.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So there's information on that.
Government agency, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we've done so many episodes about the benefits of fish and eating fish, including it, once, twice, 3 times a week would be great. Mm-hmm. It's a natural Mother Nature's package of omega-3, and it also has protein and selenium and zinc and a lot of beneficial nutrition that we don't really get from other foods.
Right.
We did an episode about, is it safe to eat fish daily?
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago.
I know.
Remember that?
Yeah, we should point.
A couple months ago.
We'll put that in the show notes because I think that's a really important episode to listen to, all about the benefits of eating fish, not necessarily daily, but including fish.
Yeah, exactly. I love fish. And I like the variety that, like there's so many different ways you can eat it. If you like fish, you've got canned fish, you've got all the different kinds you can cook. You've got, pickled versions of fish I love fish, so I don't have any problem getting it into my diet.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And actually, this is a good 2 thumbs up for frozen fish. So a study at Pennsylvania State University compared the taste of fresh fish to frozen fish. An expert panel of fish tasters ranked frozen cod higher than fresh cod fillets purchased at the local supermarket. So it's interesting, but not surprising, because if you consider the frozen fish is often frozen within 4 hours of being caught, or within hours.
Yeah.
And the fresh fish could be sitting there for 5 to 10 days by the time it's purchased. So the frozen fish is usually a lot cheaper too.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like the frozen vegetables too.
True.
You kind of just use what you need, and it doesn't go bad.
Right.
And it's frozen soon after it's caught.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Canada, more than 2/3 of the frozen fish consumed is in its breaded or battered form. Fish sticks or other types of breading, right?
Right.
So
fish and chips.
Yeah. And, with the batter, you get more fat and salt. And just look, if it's deep fried, that's kind of a problem. If it's baked, that's better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to buy fish sticks all the time because I thought, it's good fish, whatever. But I've learned it's maybe, it kind of like all the benefits you get from the fish are sort of negated by how it's kind of processed and covered in all this stuff. And so, we just eat regular fish now.
Or we do, we use panko and Parmesan.
Make our own
and
little
garlic. And you can bread it in your own way and then bake it.
Exactly.
Or air fry it.
Yep.
But, the omega-3s are sensitive, just like the flaxseed, though. The fats that are in flaxseed, you know how they break down with heat and air and...
That was Lisa's other question, wasn't it? About heating flaxseed?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's better if it's like not super high heat for like the fish, if you want to preserve those omega-3s.
Right.
So not boiling or deep frying. It's better to poach or...
Sushi. Raw fish.
Well, I'm joking. That's a whole can of worms, literally.
Yeah, right.
That can be risky.
Yeah.
Right?
You kind of need
it's
to know
almost
what you're
like
doing.
Russian roulette there.
You probably definitely want to know where your fish is from at that point.
Yeah, even the freshest fish may contain like parasites and bacteria and harmful organisms that can make you sick.
Yeah.
And so, just... If you're going to have sushi, I would really, especially if you are immunocompromised, if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or young child, I would not recommend eating raw seafood in the form of sushi. So California rolls or a vegetarian sushi would be a better idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you really love your sushi. So you just made it the other day. We'll
did.
have to do an episode on that.
Fantastic. Yeah.
We didn't use raw fish.
No, I use smoked salmon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is
delicious.
Pretty readily available too, like packaged smoked salmon.
It depends where you are, but yeah.
Yeah. So what about the East Coast, West Coast?
Yeah, so Pacific, if it says Pacific salmon, that's generally wild, and the Atlantic is generally farm raised.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh.
But they have fish farms out here, don't they, on the West Coast?
But it's Atlantic breed. The fish are Atlantic fish.
That are
in
out
the
west?
fish farm. Yeah.
Oh, crazy. They're farming Atlantic fish on the West Coast.
Yeah, Pacific are wild.
Interesting. Okay, so a fish that's from the Pacific is wild. I see.
Mm-hmm. And
Gotcha.
Canned fish is wild. Canned salmon.
Really?
Yes. So canned, and you know what? There's such a huge benefit to canned salmon and canned sardines and herring, anchovies, the smash. We did another episode on the
Sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring.
Exactly, the smash, because they are smaller fish. They have less of the
toxins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The level of mercury and lead and the toxin contaminants, because they're small at the bottom of the food chain.
They don't absorb as much.
Yeah, it's the bioaccumulation of the more predatory fish that are carnivore, that are, like shark has a high level of contamination.
Mm-hmm. So that makes them better, the canned fish? Is that why?
Well, the big reason is they have the bones in those canned fish, not the tuna. There's no bones in tuna. And when you can fish with bones, and the bones are very tender and they basically dissolve in the can. Mm-hmm. And then when you mix it up to eat that meat, you're getting a really absorbable source of calcium, which many people could benefit from because maybe they're not taking too much dairy.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So if that's a good source of calcium and your body absorbs it really well. And so those small fish canned with bones, if you use all the meat in that can, and you don't pick the bones out, you're going to get a good source of calcium and omega-3 and protein. It's an alternative to red meat, and it's got the amazing omega-3 fatty acids.
Right on.
Tuna isn't canned with bones. So the tuna is such a big fish that they don't... Oh,
because the bones would be big, I guess. There'd be too many bones in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when, tuna is fine for the omega-3. It's good. It's a good quality fish, so you can eat the tuna also. It is a predatory fish. It has a higher level of the mercury buildup. So that's why there is some warnings about kids and pregnancy. Like there's limits to how much tuna in a month.
Right.
But
variety, right? Again.
Totally. Variety. So if you have a fisher person in your life and they're going fishing on the lake and bringing some fresh fish home to eat, enjoy it. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about, it's going to be contaminated, and because variety is a spice of life. So if you're doing that once in a while, that's great. It's you're fishing in your backyard or whatever. It's great, but also if you can have canned salmon as part of your fish intake in the month and other types of fish, then that'd be great to spread out the variety.
So is that kind of what you'd recommend to Lisa? Because she's land bound, I guess we'll say, other than the lakes. So if you were in that position where she is, what would you be looking for when you went shopping in order to sort of fill your fish requirements?
I'd be definitely eating a lot of canned fish.
Okay.
Personally, that's what we used to do when we lived there.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, and the frozen fish, you can get frozen wild Pacific in the grocery stores. Canned salmon's a lot cheaper, a lot more cost effective, right? Mm-hmm. And easier for a lot of people to prepare because you don't have to cook it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing with cooking fish, but it's pretty easy to cook fish because it's quick.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's so many different ways you can eat fish too, that maybe some people aren't, they don't eat canned fish. They only eat cooked fish or
many people I talk to, that's the only fish they
vice
eat.
versa. Some people don't like cooked fish. They don't like the smell of it, or they don't like the smell it leaves in the house, or for whatever reason. But I don't know. Fish is one of those foods. It's got some issues around it.
Yeah. And if it smells fishy when you buy it, probably not a good thing.
It'll taste fishy.
And if it's brown or dry around the edges, probably freezer burnt, or, that's another sign that it's probably not great. If it's got ice crystals or has freezer burn, that's not good quality either.
Mm-hmm. Or if it's still winking at you. That's my dad's Irish, and he's got all these old Irish limericks and little jokes and stuff, but he had something about the sardines or the I don't know what it was, but Something about them still winking
Oh,
at.
well, you gotta remember what it was now. You can't just tell us that and not leave us hanging. You'll have to ask him.
I know. I'll add it to the show notes or something.
Good idea. Although it would be funny to hear you say it.
Yeah, maybe I'll put it in the newsletter. You got to subscribe to the newsletter to get my dad's jokes. Yeah. I'll have Grandpa's joke of the week.
That's awesome.
It'll be some old crazy Irish limerick. They're funny. But I've heard them so many times. So my dad just like there'll be some like, we'll be eating dinner, whatever the conversation, and there'll be some word that triggers him to say this joke. And I'm just like, Dad, I've heard this like since I was 4. But go ahead.
It's hilarious.
And he's got a big grin on his face.
We
goes
haven't
into
all
it.
heard it though.
No, I know.
Yeah,
so
I remember that one too, but I can't remember what he said.
Yeah, it was about fish though. That's funny.
Yeah. So I hope we answered the question. Is farm fish safe to eat? Is Atlantic salmon as high in omega-3 as Pacific? How can you tell?
Did you answer that one? Atlantic high in omega-3.
No, the Pacific, the wild Pacific generally has more omega-3.
Oh, the wild has more than the farmed.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
But the farmed is fattier, but it's not necessarily the omega-3 fat.
But fatty isn't necessarily good, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and how can you tell at the grocery store if your fish is wild or farmed? There should be a
label.
A label, wild caught,
Stamp,
Pacific salmon, farm raised, Oceanwise, Friends of the Sea, MSC, like Marine Steward Council, or wild caught, or Aquaculture Stewardship Council.
Mm-hmm.
So that's farmed, and that's ASC. And, there's all these different tips on, how the fish flesh pushes in, like how it bounces back, and like if it sinks in with your thumb, then it might be, like if it's more spongy, it's maybe older.
Oh, right.
That's the thing with canned fish too. Like,
it was canned fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good. I mean, you open it and you just use it. You don't have to prepare it.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people, that's just easier. But, people have their own relationship with food from when they grew up. And if there are comments about, oh, sardines are like cat food, or, oh, this is so gross, it's smelly, or whatever comments that you've heard or you think, that might affect your pleasure of eating canned fish. So that's just part of life, and too bad, because it is a really healthy food.
You know what I find? I remember that as a kid too, and sort of understanding those descriptions of fish. I found it fishy. There wasn't a lot of options with canned fish. It was always kind of like, hey, canned fish. And today there's so many amazing products in terms of canned fish, and they're tasty, they're flavored, they're still cheap. There's some amazing things out there. So if you're not familiar with sort of the current offerings in the canned fish aisle, go have a second look, because things have changed. There's definitely some amazing products. One of my favorites, and I think I might have mentioned this before, but it's a mackerel. It's the Mediterranean flavored mackerel, and it's canned. It's a little bit pricier compared to some of the other ones. It's like $3 or $4 for the can of it. But that is it's like steak. It's like a thick, dense kind of fish. Mm-hmm. And it's in like, I don't know if it's olive oil, but it's got like seasoned in like tomato and black olives. Like, it tastes like heaven. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you put it on crackers?
I just put it on a fork and put it in my mouth, because it's so good. And I usually will like make sure no one's home when I eat it, because I don't want to share it. Okay. That's how good it is. I'm like, hey, no one's home.
That's what I do with chocolate.
I know. But that's my chocolate. It's so tasty.
Oh, that's good.
And I don't think that kind of thing was around like 20, 30 years ago.
Maybe not.
I think it would have been like just plain fish, which is why nobody probably wanted to eat canned fish, because it was like, oh, this is just like a piece of fish in a can. Like, there's nothing There's no effort put into it.
Yeah, because you can get sardines and in mustard or in jalapeno or in spring water or lemon juice. Like there's all these different flavors. It's great.
Yeah, different ways of prepared and flavored. And
I say go for it. Like, you could just get the plain because you're reducing the sodium and the oils, like the fat and all that. But if it prevents you from eating fish, I'd say go for the Mediterranean, like you were talking about that one.
Exactly.
It's tasty. It's a way that you can eat fish. Same with the mustard one or the jalapeno, depending on what your tastes are. Go for the flavored ones. If that's a way that you're going to
if it's going to help you to eat the fish, then that's a good thing.
Definitely. Yeah, I really recommend it because, you get those omega-3s and it's hard to get those anywhere else. They are part of the anti-inflammatory diet and they're really helpful. We've talked all about fish in other episodes and how beneficial those essential fatty acids are, omega-3s. So I hope that answered your question, Lisa.
Yeah, let us know. And don't be afraid to reach out if you have more questions. That goes for anyone, not just Lisa. Send us an email. It's mywifetherg@gmail.com. If you have questions, you want to know anything, we're happy to put an episode together and have a little chit chat about it. Because if you have that question, other people have that question too. So don't be shy. You can visit our website as well if you want more information. There's all sorts of things on the website these days. We have a blog with all kinds of different articles written by all kinds of different people. Guests on our show have written blog articles. Sandra's written blog articles. I've contributed a few things here and there. We have newspaper articles that Sandra's been involved with. We have a newsletter, a free newsletter that we put out every week that's got nutrition tips. It's got vegetable of the week, gives you ideas about different vegetables, what you can do with them and their nutrients and all that sort of stuff. We've got recipes. We've got what we've been up to. It's changing all the time. It's really a wealth of information and it's free to join. You just click on the button on the website and sign up for that. We're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Reach out to us there as well if you wish. And if you like the show, let us know. Give us a rating or a review. That's an excellent way to share your feedback with us and to let other people know that it's a show worthy of their time. You can also share with your friends. It's another easy way to let your friends know that you found something that's valuable and helpful for your health and your nutrition needs. So that is it for this episode. We'll be back on Wednesday with another rendition of Nutrition Nuggets. So until then, have a fantastic week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.